So I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead now. And Sherry, I'll go ahead and do a few of the questions that have come in. And so I see that people are putting quite a number of questions in. And so thank you for this. And before I actually start on the questions, I want to say thank you to everybody who got the consultations also as part of this. And I have met some of you already. It's a great pleasure. And I will be meeting more of you as we're going through the course and afterwards also. So I appreciate it very much. I appreciate all of you being here and listening to this presentation. And now I will answer some questions. And let's see here. Okay. I normally have low blood pressure. Can specific herbs lower that pressure too much? All right, so I'll give you the answer and then I will tell you how you can get the answer. So first of all, module 2 next week, there's lots of good ways you can find the answer to this online. Okay, I'm just going to save you time with the context that I'm giving you. It's like a little mini course and like, all right, you don't have to waste your time on Google, just go here. These are the best herb products. These are the best databases like that. So I will give you basically, 20 years of experience that you can just use. And you're probably familiar with a lot of this if you've been spending time doing it. So in module 2, I'll tell you how to answer that online. Then in module 3, we're going to talk a little bit about herb-drug interactions, and that will shed some light on this question. And then in module 4, I'm going to give you files of herb categories that are contraindicated for specific conditions. Now, I told you how you can find out, but now I will answer it for you. Most herbs that lower the blood pressure, they do it really mildly, okay? Otherwise, there would be a cure for hypertension, all right? But there isn't. When there's hypertension, we have to work on it from all kinds of different angles, exercise and diet and stress reduction and herbs. But otherwise, if there was an herbal counterpart to just taking a hypertensive medication, the problem would be solved. But it's not that easy. But here's the issue here, okay? And this is the best answer to this question. If you have low blood pressure, that can make you sensitive to herbs in general, all right? And if you're sensitive to herbs in general, and not just herbs in general, but it means you're sensitive to other things also. It means you're probably sensitive to cold weather and other kinds of influences. If you have low blood pressure, you are probably a more sensitive person because of that. And what that does is that it makes it possible that you may have sort of unpredictable idiosyncratic effects from any herb, actually, all right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you should be afraid of herbs. It just means that you should start with something like your Ayurvedic body type constitution and look at, all right, what are the main types of herbs that you want? And that's how we avoid a lot of these problems, you see, because the main question that you're asking, can specific herbs lower blood pressure? Yes. Can they lower it too much? Maybe, but other things may do it unexpectedly. But the real issue is, what kind of herbs do you need, okay? And the herbs that you need, if you are a certain constitution, are not going to be things that would be used for lowering blood pressure. You need things to strengthen your blood, okay? That's the main thing. If you have low blood pressure, you need to build your blood. And if you build your blood, you're not going to have that risk. All right, so good question. Okay, here's another big question. Oh boy. How can consumers be confident about what we buy anywhere? Essential oils are now sold at my local market and Palo Santo oil and sticks at the boutique store. Is there a way to test products to be sure we're getting what we think we're getting? And for the record, I appreciate and have confidence in you and your ethical approach to our planet and therefore our products. And now buy them. Well, thank you. All right. Well, that's the answer. That we go to ethical sources. That's one answer, I should say, but it raises another question. How can we be confident about anything? I mean, there's so much out there now. I mean, you can't trust anything on the internet. So when it comes to quality control issues in the herbal industry, I said something on the Q&A that was a paradox, that a contradiction, I should say. And I was hoping somebody was going to catch it and catch me on it. And say, hey, you said something contradictory last week. You said that here in the United States that the FDA regulates everything and we're very safe. Our herbal products are really safe because of a high level of regulation. But you also said there's all kinds of problems in the industry and that we have to really be careful about quality control. Well, okay, it's a contradiction, but both are true, all right? And what we can say, there's a few basic guidelines here, all right? One is that you should just know your sources. That's the most important thing. Know your sources. And when I give you the list of herb companies that I work with, it's going to save you a lot of time because, you know, I'm not going to give you a homework assignment. I want you to go out and I want you to find all the best herb companies and why. I'm just going to give you the list, all right? 15, 20 herb companies. And the criteria will be very strict. Why? These are the best. And once you have that information, then you don't have to worry about this so much. It's really like you run into problems when you're dealing with unknown sources, all right? So you can just say, all right, I got the information, I got the referral, these are the good places to go, all right? And I will say that the essential oil industry, the quality control issues are much, much more complicated than in the herbal industry. They're complicated in the herbal industry, but the herbal industry is in a lot of ways more regulated. So with essential oils at the retail level, you really don't know what you're getting. At the herbal level, it's much more regulated and there are more things in place that have to happen with testing and quality control before things actually get to the retail shelf, okay? But there's still a lot of products that are out there that don't actually contain the herb that is supposed to be in there. Like, for example, a huge number of CBD products have been tested by the FDA and found that they don't actually have any CBD in them, all right? So these are things that we can also learn how to track. There are places that I will tell you about, quality control websites, all right, that you can follow, all right? Now, the Palo Santo sticks you're mentioning, there's no quality control issues there, all right? Just don't burn down the house. Just make sure it's out and put it into some sand or something, you know, put it in an incense burner because it can reignite, surprisingly. All right, here's another good one. Or actually, let me do this. Sherry, let me turn it back to you. And why don't we see if anybody wants to actually raise their hand? I think we have time for maybe one short, simple question. And if nobody wants to raise their hand, I'll just continue with the ones that have come in.
Okay, that sounds great. So to raise your hand, go to the bottom of your Zoom window. You'll see a little button that says participants. Click on that button. Then a white panel will pop out to the side of your Zoom window. And then you'll see the list of participants. At the bottom of that panel in the right-hand corner, you'll see a button that says raise hand. So click on that button, that will raise your hand. If you're on mobile device, tap your screen, tap more, and you'll see the raise hand option there. So there are a couple of hands raised, David.
All right, let's see if we can squeeze them both in. Go ahead. One, somebody, talk to me.
Let's go to Amina. Hi.
You are muted. Who was it? What was their name?
Amina. Oh, there
Hi.
we go.
Hello, Amina.
Hello. Thank you for having this course. I really am enjoying it. So I was wondering when you said improper conjunction of sense organs and sense objects. And wanted to know, would you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, I gave you a very brief overview, and this is a big subject, okay? The two fundamental forms of this term, prajnapadada, the lack of discriminating intelligence, all right, that causes us to create obstacles for ourselves are, number one, repression of natural body functions. And that is especially the case with depriving ourselves of sleep, also excessive fasting, and suppressing emotions, things like that. There's a very big course that we could do just on that. But that's the main category. First, we are blocking things. We are not doing what the body needs. Okay, we're suppressing things. Okay. Blocking functions. And the second category is that we are actually not using the sense organs in a balanced way. Now that can happen because of our behavior, but it can also just happen to us under circumstances we can't control, you see. So, for example, if you are out backpacking and you spend too much time in really intense sunlight, it's going to harm the eyes. All right, so it's excess conjunction of the eyes with light. And of course, one of the things that strains our eyes now a lot is, screen time. And a lot of people have excess conjunction of eyes and screen. But at the same time, we have to say, well, all right, what's reasonable and realistic in terms of our lifestyle. Mostly where this comes into play is when people have addictive problems. And so sugar addiction is excess conjunction of the tongue with the sweet taste, all right? And a lot of drug addiction is actually based on the sense of taste, okay? Nicotine, for example, is taste, all right? Excess conjunction of tongue, tobacco, smoke, all right? But then there's also deficient conjunction, and that's also part of like repressing things. Like, for example, anorexia, repressing appetite, suppressing appetite is deficient conjunction between the tongue and nourishing tastes, you see. So that's the basic concept. Now, what happens is if the sense organs and the sense objects come in to balanced relationship, then that creates balance inside the body. And if the sense organs are coming in a deficient or an excess way, then that creates imbalance, all right? So you can just think of any of these examples that I gave, and there's lots and lots of other examples of all kinds of things in every sense organ, all right? But for example, excess conjunction of the tongue with certain food groups will lead to metabolic disorder, you see, metabolic syndrome. And so therefore, it's very important to actually be mindful of how the sense organs are coming into contact with the world, because that's where our relationship with the world starts. And it's also how the world influences our physiology. And in a lot of cases, we do have some degree of control over it. And in other cases, if something happens to us and we cannot control it, then at least we might be able to later to make up for something. And that's a lot of what natural medicine is doing, is it's just making up for some periods of time where we went through long periods of stress and we couldn't eat well and we had to do this. And now we finally get a little space to breathe and slow down, and oh, finally I can cook for myself again. And, I don't have to eat in the car all the time because of my job and these kind of things. So that's what I mean by that. Is that a helpful explanation? Okay, I assume that was then. All right, let's do one more. Thank you for asking that question. Good. It's, your homework assignment is to study that yourself. Study your own sense organs and how they come in contact with the outer world and how that makes your physiology feel. Okay, Sherry, do you have time? We can do one more live question.
We can do one more.
Okay, let's do this. And for the person that we don't have time for, put it in the chat. I answer all questions. There will be a file next week. All these questions are going to be answered on the file. Okay, so let's do one more person. Who's that going to be, Sherry?
Okay, that's going to be Dr. Sarat. And Nancy, just go ahead and put your question in the chat.
Dr. Sarat G.
Namaste, David. Thank you very much. And this course is so good. The content is excellent and the timing is so perfect.
Thank you.
My question is on the mental and emotional habits. Based on my personal experience, the underlying cause for both of these is our belief system. So we should also add, I feel that we should also add the belief system to this. And because there are three kinds of beliefs, a negative belief, a positive belief, and a healthy belief. So we need to also do some kind of a self-assessment analysis on the belief system. What do you think about that?
I agree. Thank you. You are sharing your expertise as an Ayurvedic doctor with everyone. So we all appreciate that additional piece of information, and you are absolutely correct. But now let me ask you a question, since we have your knowledge, training, background, and experience with us. Where do our beliefs come from?
Our beliefs come from, I mean, there are two aspects. One is when you look at some purely from a physical plane and a spiritual plane. Spiritual plane, when you look at it, it is based on the accumulated, I would say, karma. So that converts into samskaras. So that is one. And the second thing is...
Can you define that term for people, samskaras?
Yeah, samskaras is, let me put it the right word. It is the, what is the right word in English? Let me see. It's the...
habits, patterns, impressions.
Yeah, it's the impressions. It's the impressions which we carry from our past lives. And that is, to be more, to add one more meaning to it is our attributes or who we are as a person. In nutshell, our character, right? So that's what is samskara. So samskara. So that is what I would say one source. The second source is from the exposure and the experiences we've been having from birth till today. That also adds positive, negative, and healthy beliefs. For example, chemotherapy have a lot of side effects. That's a belief. Now, it has some truth to it, and it has, so again, that's just an example, right? So, for instance, I cannot defeat cancer, or what will happen to me if I am disabled because of cancer? Like that, there are so many questions one can get, and those are the beliefs. It's mostly because of a lot of it. Again, as you said, I was really happy to see that internet, because a lot of it is also due to digital toxicity these days. So that is second source. The second source is the exposure and the experiences we having as a human being during our lifetime.
Good explanation. Good. Thank you. Well, this is something that I would love to talk to you about for hours and hours, but it's quite late for Sherry, and I'm not assuming that she's just going to stay indefinitely with us. But thank you for bringing that up. And the most important thing for everybody here is to consider also the impact of our beliefs in mental and emotional states. And you are absolutely correct, Doctor, that if we really look deeply at the kind of environment of our mind and our emotions, that we will find that whatever habits we have of moods, repetitive moods and repetitive thought process that we're in, there are often, not always, but often, there are fundamental underlying beliefs that are there that are making us think and feel that way. You are absolutely correct. And this is a very important aspect of self-inquiry and self-knowledge, all right? And it can be something that can have a tremendous impact on our health. Not always, though. It's very important to remember, the 5 bodies of Ayurveda, because we can have mental beliefs in the mental body that are influencing emotional habits in the emotional body, but the disease can be very, very strongly rooted in the food body. And even if we have positive mind and emotions, sometimes the body gets sick anyway, you see. So it's good to cross-reference that particular system of looking at things through belief, cross-reference it by looking at things through other systems as well, because we want to stay out of the danger zone with that particular thinking. And the danger zone is that you can control everything if you change your beliefs. And that's just not true. We can influence everything to a very high degree, but this is a problem in natural medicine that I just want to mention, and that is that there's a lot of thinking that if you have a problem, there must be something wrong with your thinking. And therefore, if you're not prosperous, then, it must be self-imposed negativity. And a lot of times it just completely overlooks the fact that, the world economy is falling apart. And people, I have heard things. I have actually had patients who have told me that they feel terrible about having cancer because it means that it's a failure in terms of their belief systems. And we have to be compassionate, all right? I don't think it's not that clear. Sometimes it's a very strong model to use and sometimes it isn't. So but what's important is that you brought this to our attention and you shared it and described it very nicely. And so thank you very much. And thank you for being in the course. It's a pleasure to have you here. And thank you to everybody. Okay, so now it is time to say good night. And thank you to everybody for being in the course. And thank you to everybody who posted all the questions. And I will have the file for you next week. And next week, we're going to be talking about navigating the maze of the internet medicine. And hopefully, it will give you some good resources. And we will carry on with a few things that were left over from this class also. So do your homework, okay? Do some self-inquiry by doing this self-diagnostic, these practices that I have given you. And so thank you again. Have a wonderful, safe week. And Sherry, thank you very much for hosting. And so good night.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And thank you to all of you. We'll see you next week. Just a reminder to make your way to the course homepage through the website, floracopia.com. You'll just need to log in there and then you'll find all of the resources for the course, everything that David spoke about tonight, as well as the recording from tonight. That usually takes about 24 to 48 hours to post, and everything will be available for you there. If you have any trouble accessing that page, please reach out to support@floracopia.com. And that should all be in the chat, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Have a lovely week.